Okay, let us start today. We'll see some concept like what is the difference between the master data and the transactional data. So, what is the difference between the master data and transactional data? Master data and the transactional data. The types of data. This is we call as the types of data. Types of data. So generally we'll see in the system in any application there will be a data types, right? So what is the master data? What is the transactional data here? So to create the master data, what should be required normally? Normally we should require, say for example, to create any master data. Say I want to insert here. Let us insert the one table. So in the table, I have the customer. This say for example, this is the table of customer master data. So here I am giving the customer ID, customer name, and type. Customer name. Here this is for example category or type of the product, type of the customer. I say okay, customer. So for example, here customer ID I am giving the 123. Customer name, like customer name is like I am giving XYZ. XYZ is the customer name. The type is A1. So if you see in the first one, so we are having some kind of data here. The data. So to create this table, what are all required here? What are all required to create this customer master data table? So what is the primary thing is required to create here? So these are the combination of this customer ID, customer name, the type of the customer, the three combination what we called. Within the three combination we are creating the table, no doubt. So within the table what are there? What we call this each one? These are each one we call as fields. Fields. Customer master data fields. The combination of these three fields we call as the customer master data. The combination of these fields we call as the customer master data. This is customer master data. So leave it about the SAP. I'm not talking about the SAP XD01, XK01. In the normal, in generic point of view, if you want to create a data master data table, one table master data table, we should require the what we require the fields. The combination of the fields we call as the customer master. I call as the table, right? The same way, say same way, I am having the one more thing is called uh, product. Product I am having for the product also I have the one more master data. Say for example, this is the product PID, product ID, and product name, type of the product, type of the product. So the product ID is 145. 145 is the description. X1 is the type of the product. So here also the same thing. The combination of these fields the combination of product ID, the combination of the product name, combination of the type of the product, we call as a, it is all together, it is creating a one table. This fields is called as a combination of these fields is called as the product master data table. Product master data table, right? So okay, here this is about the master data. What about the transactional data? This is about the master data, right? What about the transactional data? Let us create one more slide. Mm, one more slide. Just removing this. So for example, I am having one more table. I am taking the table name table. This is the sales table. Sales table I am having, right? In the sales table, what I am having, like product ID, customer ID, quantity, rate, quantity, rate, and amount. Amount. So what is the product ID here? The product ID is 145 is the product ID. What is the customer ID? 123. What is the quantity? 10. Rate 50. Value 500. So the combination of these fields. Here I have taken the field of field reference from product ID. This one. Customer ID I am taking from this table. This is altogether different tables, right? Customer ID I'm taking from this. Okay. So here these two fields we call as the reference of master data. These two fields we call as the reference of the master data. Reference of master data. Master data fields. Reference of the master data fields we call. So what about these three? Quantity and rate, amount. I am having these three fields, right? These three fields I call as the statistical values. Values. So altogether, this is the table we call. What is this table? What is the name of this table? Sales transactional data table. Transactional data table. So what is this transactional data table? The combination of fields. The first two, the product ID and customer ID, we call as the reference of master data fields, and the quantity, rate, amount we call as the statistical values. Okay, up to here you cleared? You have any doubts? So difference between the master data and transactional data. What is the master data and the transactional data? So master data means this one, which is having the fields, whether it could be a primary key field, or unique or any we have the types of key fields, right? So these are combination of these fields we call as the master data table, and the combination of this reference of master data plus statistical values we call as the transactional data table. This is the transactional data table. Here I am having the product ID, customer ID, along with this quantity, rate, and amount. This whole this line item, this table we call as the transactional data table, right? The coming into the SAP, we have some we have the we should need to map these tables, this master data and the transactional data tables into SAP. In SAP terminology, if you want to talk about that, let us take one more table. Okay, so what is this means? In general terminology, it is in the BW terminology. BW, SAP BW means business warehouse, SAP BPC. Okay, SAP BPC. So this is, we are talking about the terminology in the BPC. BPC terminology. Master data. We have the first master data. Okay, master data and transactional data. So here the master data fields. In the BW, we'll create the master data in the info object characteristics. In the info object characteristics, we create in the info object characteristics. So master data in general, this is the master data. In BW, the terminology is info object characteristics we'll create here. Okay. In BPC, coming to the BPC, we'll maintain the master data in the dimensions. This is the terminology of the dimension, right? Here in the BW, info object characteristics. So whatever, why I am telling, why I am syncing with the BPC with the BW means, whatever we have done at the front end BPC, it is going to save. It is going to save in the BW system. Dimensions, if I create, it will be create as an info object characteristic. Automatically, it will create. We don't need to create manually in the BW. It will take a reference of the dimension and it will create, right? This is master data. Coming to the transactional data, and in the master data we have the fields, right? Fields. These fields in SAP BW attributes, we call as the attributes. In the BW fields, we nothing but attributes. In SAP BPC, we call properties. We call. Under the dimension, we'll have the properties. Properties, once you create, it will automatically create at the backend BW attributes. Correct? And coming to this transactional data. Transactional data. The transactional data in BW, it will be going to save, we call in the BW, it will store in the info cube. Info cube. This is the cube, info cube, in BW terminology. In BPC, we call as the model. It will store the transactional data, will store in the model. Right? So what I am saying here, the master data and the transactional data. Master data, BW info object characteristics we call. So it will store in the info object characteristics. The master data we will store in the BPC in dimensions. What about the fields? Fields in the master data we call as the attributes. Attributes in the BW system. BPC properties we call as the properties. Transactional data info cube, and here we call as a model. This is the terminology is very important. We need to understand this one. Then only it is easy for us to practice in the system. Once you go into the system, then you will be know this is the dimension and properties and model. We always talk about this terminology only. Okay. And coming to this, in the transactional data, we have the key fields, right? Statistical value, statistical values. So what is the statistical value? Statistical value, statistical values in the SAP BW system we call as the key figure. Key figure we call as the key figures. In the BPC we call as the sign data. What is that? Sign data. BPC we call sign data. What is the statistical value? Quantity, amount and rate, those are called as the statistical value, which I told here. These are the statistical value: quantity, rate and amount. Okay. And what I left? Dimensions, properties, model, sign data. Okay. Altogether, as a SAP having SAP FICO, if I take an example, it will be having in IDs, which is a predefined company codes will be available, right, in IDs. Like that, in SAP BPC, we have one folder. That folder, like that, above below these objects, I will be saved into the one folder. Generally you can say it is in a folder. I'll keep all these things in one folder. All these objects I'll save into the one folder. So in that folder in BW we call as we info area. Info area is the folder which is having the objects of info object characteristics, attributes, info cubes and key figures. These are all these are all saved under the info area. It acts as a folder. Okay. Like that, in SAP BPC we have one folder which is predefined, that is environment shell. Environment shell, which is a predefined one, which is a standard one. This is the standard one which is given by the SAP BPC predefined shell. It contains what it does contains. It contains the dimensions, properties, models, okay, sign data. All the objects will contains in environment shell. So these are all will come under the environment shell. This is the terminology of the BPC. You need to understand. Okay, fine. Delete the rows. So if you have any doubts in this terminology, you can ask. So let us see in the system. So what is the environment shell and what is the info area? What is the dimensions? What is the properties? What is the model? Okay, what is the sign data? So here the two things you need to understand, like master data will always store in the dimensions. Transactional data will always store in the models. This is we need to understand this one. Okay, master data and transactional data. If I say the transactional data, you should be aware of this. Okay, this master data will store in the models in BPC. Okay, master data, it will store in the dimensions. Fine. Okay, let us click on to the system. Mm, so how to connect to the, first of all, how to connect to the BPC through remote desktop. How to connect to the BPC remote desktop. Desktop. Okay. So I'll give some steps here. Maybe you are aware how to connect. It's a general thing, but I'll give the steps here. The steps are only, first one, you press Windows, Windows plus R. Okay. Next step, give the MSTSC is the command. It will prompt you the box. One window box will appear. So there you need to give the computer name, computer name and credentials, computer name and credentials you need to give. Once you given the credentials, you will enter, you will enter into the remote desktop, remote desk. So there you will find an URL. So let us complete these steps here. Okay. Okay. Windows R. See here. Once I given the Windows R, it is giving the run prompt button, right? MSTSC. MSTSC is the button. So here it is asking the computer name. Computer name we already, it will be provided by the administrator. Your administrator will give this computer name. Once you given your computer name here, click on connect. Okay, it is asking the credentials. So if you are new credentials, you have to give your ID and password here. ID and password. Click on here. Already ID is there for me. I need to give only the password. Click OK. So your desktop will looks like this. Let me close this. Yeah, desktop. We entered into the desktop, right? So here we will find URLs. Portal URLs we will find here. Okay. Sort by, let me name size. This is the remote desktop. In this remote desktop, we have the different icons. We need to take care about the two icons. First one, this is the BW icon. BW icon, and how we connect means, how we connect the BPC means through portal links. This is the BPC URL links which was given by the administrator. So as of now, this is the important now. This one we need to connect. Okay, Control C, BPC web URL. We need to connect through IE, Internet Explorer. This one. Click on the Internet Explorer. You paste that one in the address bar. Okay, click OK. If you given a continue to website here, it is giving your NetWeaver, SAP NetWeaver. This is the front end page. Once I given the URL here, we need to give the credentials to this. We need to give to the credentials, like the same credentials which is given by the administrator. So into password and username, click log on. So we entered into the, this is BPC 10.1 version. This is BPC 10.1 classical version. The here this is the administration. We have the so many tabs here: library, activities, process monitor, consolidation. Okay, consolidation, administration, system reports, documents. Initially we need to connect to the administration. Once you click on the administration, so what is our first step here? I told you that here I told environment. We are talking about the environment which is given by the SAP BPC predefined one, this one. So here once you go here, where is the environment here? You just forget about all these things now. Now environment, here the environment is there. If you click on the environment BPC class, we need to find out the environment shell, standard environment shell we need to find out, right? So these are all environments which is created by us. Somebody who are the training, who are doing the training, there's themselves, they have created their environments. Like our company codes, in ECC FSEO, manage all. If you click on the manage all here, click on the manage all, you will get all the environment, all the company codes we call here the environments. These are all one environment. These are all the environments. Okay, these are all the environments. So what do we need to find out here? We need to find out the standard environment shell. We are talking about the standard environment shell. This is the standard environment shell which is provided, predefined by the refined by the SAP itself, like IDAS, system IDAS, FSEO. If you want to click on that one, if I want to connect to that environment shell, how can I connect? See here in above, there is a connect button is there. If you click on the connect button, I can connect to that environment. Okay, click OK. This is the standard environment. See here, previously something else it is there, BPC class. Now it was connected to the environment shell, right? We have been connected to the environment shell. Cancel. So here in the environment shell, we have talked about the, what is that? Where do we store the master data in the BPC? We store the master data in dimensions. Correct? If you look at this screen, we store the master data in the dimensions. So this is the dimension. If you click on this, you will get all the dimensions. Dimensions is nothing but to store the master data. Your master data will store here itself. Whether it is master data is defined into the different tables, like account master data dimension, entity dimension. I'm not getting anything here in environmental. So maybe you will get all the objects here, but this in this system we are not getting. Let us see any other model, any other environmental. So we can take this one also. If you connect this, will be objects will available. In the standard environmental, I'm not getting the objects. Not getting the objects. Okay. So what is this? Assume this is a standard environmental. Go to the administration. dimensions. Click on the dimensions. See here, you will get the dimensions. These are the dimensions which is provided by the SAP itself, BPC itself, like IDS. This is a standard account dimension. If you click on the account dimension, what we will get? We will get the master data. This is the master data. Here the master data in BPC we call as the dimension members. These are all the dimension members. In generic we call as the master data. In BPC we call these are the dimension members. What it is their balance sheet, total account, fixed assets, land and building, current assets, all company related accounts are available here. Whether you have n number of company codes, but the n number of company codes data is available here itself. So accounts, if you are having the if you are having the subsidiary companies, or if you are having any sister concern companies, you will bring the all the data, all accounts data here itself in this dimension. Whether you are having the source data in ECC or other any legacy system, you want to bring, you should bring all the master data records accounts in this account dimension, in this account dimension. So what I am telling, so under the dimension there are the we call as the fields. That fields we call as the properties. These are the properties. The account type is one of the field. Elim, input, rate type, scaling, type elim. These are the fields. These fields we call as the properties in the dimensions. Properties. These are the properties. Under the properties we have the dimension members. I'll write down here. Master data, properties, search, insert row below, right? Master data in the info area we call as the master data members. Here dimension members, dimension member members, right? See here, each one you are having the, say for example, if I want to look at the all entities data here, master data, if you click on the entity dimension, you will get the all the entities. See here, India, Sri Lanka, China, Asia, France, North America, Europe, America. Okay, these are the master data we maintain dimension members in entity. If you want to look at the category, category means what type of the data are you going to maintain here. Whether you are maintaining the actual data or planned data, actual data or the planned data, right? And this is an RPT currency. If you are maintaining any currencies here, here RPT currency is one of the dimension. It having the currencies data. So I need to tell which is the reporting currency and what is the local currency. Local currency, what is the local currency here? LC is the local currency. Euro and USD is the reporting currencies. So I need to tell the place where it is a reporting currency dimension. If you have an intercompany transactions means within the group company there will be some subsidiaries companies. So that company's information, even one company to the another company transfers, sales or purchase, those company counterpart companies will maintain the master data here itself, intercompany transactions. And coming to the model, See, the coming to the model. These are the models which are available in the BPC. So what we call what will store in the model? We will store the transactional data in these models. So I am having the consolidation is one of the model, finance is one of the model, ownership model, rates model. Okay. In the consolidation, if I want to store the data, transactional data, I will store in the consolidational model. This is the model which is containing the dimensions. Model which is containing the dimensions. Okay, let us see in the same terminology in the BW system. Okay, BW system. So if I connect to the BPC class here, I'll connect to the BPC class environment. This is the regular one which I am using. So connected here. Go to the administration dimensions. Go to the models. How many models I am having? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 models I am having in this environment. So let us look at connect to the BW system. Click on the SAP logon here. SAP logon, click on here. It is going to ask you the credentials. You need to give the same credentials which is used in the SAP BPC. Okay. If you select this one, click logon. Here it will give the same credentials, BPC user 03. So once you given the credentials, this is the home page for the SAP BW system. This is the BW system. So to check your objects, to check your all the objects like the info objects, attributes, master data, info cubes, there is a one transaction code is there to check all these objects. What is the transaction code? The transaction code is that RSA1 is the transaction code. RSA1 T code. RSA1 is the transaction code to check your the BW objects. /n. I'll keep this one remains same. RSA1. RSA1 is the transaction code. Okay. So here you are finding the objects. This area. Make sure your cursor should be in the info provider. You always info provider. So if you want to check your objects, I want to check my info area here. BPC. I created the BPC class as an environment. In BW, I need to check as a info area. These are all info areas which is having the double diagonal symbol. These are the info areas. So what is my info area? Here this is the BPC business planning and consolidation /CPMB is the place provided by the BW. This is the place where we store all our objects. All our the BPC objects will store under this info area. So if you click on this, see this one under this BPC classroom is one of the info area which is automatically created when I was created as an environment in the BPC system. This is the backend of the BPC /CPMB BPC class. This is the info area. This one info area BPC class I created. Okay. So here under this I am having these are called info cubes. These are all the info cubes. Info cubes means my models. These are the info cubes. This one. info cube. Okay, this info cube we create. How does this info cubes came here? By creating the model at the front end BPC, it is automatically created as a info cube. If you see this symbol, this is an info cube. So how to find out the dimensions? Then what about the dimensions means? These are the dimensions. Account is an info object characteristics. Audit trail is an info object characteristics. Category is an info object characteristics. So we call here info object characteristics. In BPC we call dimensions. These are the dimensions automatically created in the BW system. These are the dimensions. Time, scope, s underscore product. So what we'll do, what we store here in the info object characteristics, what we'll store here, we'll store the master data. The more in the info cubes, what we'll store transactional data. Info cubes will store the transactional data. Okay, in here I'll store the master data. So here I am not going to create anything. If I create here, if I look at the BPC, it will not be, it will not, we cannot do that. Only from BPC to BW only, not from BW to BPC, we cannot create the objects. So this is how the master data and the transactional data in generic and BW terminology and BPC terminology. If you click on this, you will find the master data here. If you click on maintain, it will bring some data. These are all the see master data. What is this? BS000, BS000, BS100. This is the master data which is updated at the front end of the BPC. Call as the dimension members. Call as the dimension members. So if you click on this one, if you click on the any cube here, this cube, finance data cube, right click, display data, display data, characteristics, select this one. If I want to see the data here, I can see like this. Field for output selection, select all, execute. So see here, these are the values. What is this? This is the statistical key figure. Okay, statistical key figure, and along with this reference master data fields. This is the reference of master data fields. So in BW, this is a transactional data. The transactional data stored in the BW system. Info cube. Under the info cube, we have the transactional data. This data from where we are getting? We are getting from BPC. BPC model. Okay. So the terminology wise, if you are okay, I think we covered the properties. The properties and attributes. Attributes are nothing but properties. See here, you will find the properties, attributes in the account dimension. In the dimension, if you look at the any info object characteristic here, the attributes will be, go to the account. If you click on this is the attribute tabs. This is attribute tabs. This is nothing but the properties. These are all the properties of your BPC under the dimension. See here, if you look at the rate type is there, right? The rate type, hierarchy, scaling, all this you can find here in the account dimension. See, this is the account type, rate type, scaling. These are called as the properties in the BPC. Here we call as the attributes. Scaling, rate type, account type. These are all called as the properties, right? So this is the concept. Just is an introduction. BPC terminology we covered. If you have any doubts, you can ask me. can clarify. What we do is to, sorry, yeah, Ramakrishna.
Sir.
Your
Sir, how can we connect this remote desktop from for the beginners then?
yeah, same. The steps which we follow here, no?
Uh,
Uh,
no, we supposed to take any access from outside?
yeah, you need to take from the access from outside. I will give the reference number so that you can
Okay,
you can call to that guy and you can take. He will
okay, okay,
credentials per month. He may charge 600 or 700. Okay.
okay.
Uh,
Per day, sir?
yeah, per month wise.
Per month. Okay, okay,
You will get the credentials so that you can
okay,
explore the things once you get the system.
okay, okay, okay.
And another question is like this one, which you said that it is a classical. So embedded also going to be the same way, or the screens and everything going to be different?
Embedded is also in the same look and feel, but the objects here we are creating right in the BPC, but we will create in the embedded system from BW side. From BW itself, we will create some planning functions, planning methods. Okay, altogether that is some different way. The approach, the navigation steps also some different.
Okay, okay. So if the client is already in a classical, so example they are in a 10.1, and if they go to HANA, so
Okay.
they have to classical also in HANA, or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they cannot go.
Yeah, HANA supports for the classical and the embedded both.
Yeah, that I understand. But if they want to go to embedded in HANA after migration to HANA,
Okay.
can they go classical to embedded
Classical to embedded, it's possible.
in HANA? Okay, okay.
It's possible because the plan it is possible when the migrations will happen.
Okay. The reason is in my client, they already have 10.1 and they are planning to go for S4 HANA with embedded.
Yes, 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 they can go. Uh,
Okay.
But to understand the embedded system or any other system, embedded planning or consolidation, but the terminology is the same. What we are learning here, that's the same terminology.
Yeah, but whatever we going to create dimensions, models, everything in
Yes,
BPC,
everything is same.
we're going to do it in BW.
Yes.
So then for that, we need to have the BW knowledge also again.
BW knowledge is sufficient. What I am covering right now here, so it is sufficient. So nothing you have to check the transactional data in the cubes. Okay, to check the master data in the info object characteristics. So that anyhow we are covering. We will at last we will cover the BW loads also. How to load the data from external files, external source system to the BW system. So we will cover some loads in the BW so that you will be understand at least modeling part, then it is easy to work for real time requirements.
Okay. But is there any reason behind SAP come up with the classical and embedded, which is again going back on the BW
Reasons,
or advantage?
advantages, yeah, yeah. In the BW embedded, it is the planning, the set of the planning sequences and planning functions. Already methods is configured in the BW embedded system. If you look at the previous versions like BWIP, integrated planning, BW integrated planning. So there is some multi-complex level of the scenarios we can build easily in the embedded system. Okay, that is the main advantage. But but if you coming to the front end, we need if you want to manipulate the data at the around, if you need to write a complex level of things, we need to execute the baddies. So baddies and all depends upon the technical persons, right? The ABAP consultants. So
Right.
that is the major difference.
Okay. But the front end reporting, everything will be done from the BPC. the planning allocation.
But here front-end report, it is embedded with the Microsoft Office Excel. Okay, MS Office, MS Office Excel. So we'll open here the Excel, and here there will be two additional tabs will be there for the BPC, EPM, and the data manager to create and report to extract the data from the source system. So through we'll do all these things from via Excel.
Yeah, I mean in both the classical and embedded. EPM only going to use.
Yeah, EPM in the classical, in embedded EPM will support, but AO, there they will use the analysis for Office. That is a separate instance in embedded.
Okay, analysis for Office.
Yeah,
Okay.
for Office. Or dashboards, there
Is
be
it like Office 365?
yes, it is like same
Okay.
Excel only, but it has some other features like creating the dashboards and the pivot charts kind of things. They can create like a BO dashboards kind of thing.
Okay. In EPM, macros supports, I think, right?
Macro supports, yeah.
Okay.
Then if you are okay, if you don't have any doubts, then we'll wind up the class tomorrow. Tomorrow the timings all okay, the same timing. But if there any change, I just mail you. Okay, the timings, if you keep in bit 8 to 9 or like that, I will inform you. Okay.
Okay, sure. Can I call you on your mobile?